Hello and welcome to DM&D, where we talk about here on the Temple Tankard with all things running role-playing games. And I'm Argent Wind. I am the Dungeon Master for Avarice, the Shattered World on the Temple Tankard server. And I'll be today we're going to be talking about the evils of gatekeeping. Um, and for those of you who have heard the term, may not, and we'll kind of discuss what it is, what it looks like, and how it applies to our games and what we're doing here. And so, gatekeeping literally is, definition-wise, the activity of controlling or usually limiting general access to something. So, literally, in this setting, in our fandoms, in our gaming communities, in everything that we enjoy here, gatekeeping is when people try to push others away, calling them not true fans, or in the most recent terminology I've been hearing thrown around on the internet and on social media and stuff is the term tourist, and it's a way of kind of, I mean, from what I've seen of this behavior, it is a way to establish a dominant kind of thing. This is my thing. You get away. It's in the gaming in the convention circuit. It's getting on people who are cosplaying as characters to grill them about whether you actually know anything about that character or that world or that comic or that movie or whatever it is. It's when someone's wearing a band T-shirt and you want to say, "Do you really know anything about that band? Name three songs that band does." It's the worst, and it's ways of sort of like, I am more important than you. It's sort of establishing a pecking order, and it's just not a good thing. It's very toxic. And it is unfortunately a thing that we all have seen, experienced, and where that can really throw a wrench into the work is when you have new players coming to your games. And they've had to deal with this sort of thing. They may have tried to play in a game before, and the players or the DM got on them about not knowing everything that they're supposed to know or not everything they think they should know. So it's really something that can sour the experience for a lot of people when they first get into the gaming scene into tabletop role playing games. And there was a resurgence of this, a really big thing with Critical Role, when people started watching Critical Role and wanting to get into D&D, and all these people were like, "Well, you're not a true fan. You don't know anything about gaming. What are you doing here? Get away!" And they, instead of welcoming more people into our shared hobby, into our shared experience, into our way of life, as some people had there, they're pushing people away and trying to hold on to it. This is what it is. You can't be a part of it, and that just really makes for a really bad experience. And it's happening again now with the resurgence of popularity in Baldur's Gate 3. A lot of people are experiencing D&D in a way that we haven't been able to experience to this degree before. And so now hey, there's this game like this. Let's try it. Let's find it out there. They're seeing the actual voice actors from Baldur's Gate 3 playing D&D on YouTube videos. Very, very fun, by the way. If you want to check it out there, they're very fun folks there. But the idea that someone who doesn't have the decades of experience in role playing games, that hasn't read every novel that came out for a world, and has gone through all the books of whatever world that you're trying to play in, that's not required to have fun. It's not required to even be a DM or a game master in within the community. Hey, there, good to see folks there in the chat. There, good to see you all. And yeah, so the idea that gatekeeping comes along, and it's literally preventing our hobby to grow. It's preventing anyone from finding enjoyment, from finding a good community to be a part of. And I mean, how do we stop it? Well, recognizing in ourselves, uh, the recognizing the feelings we might have over someone who comes along and says, "Oh, what is this person doing? Why are they here? They don't know what they're doing." We talked a little whiles ago about different playstyles, and playstyles change from game to game. Over time, people may change uh, how they interact with games and how they do role playing. It's a learned skill. Not everyone comes into role playing games just knowing how to do it, and it takes some time. So rather than having that feeling of, oh my god, I've got to deal with all this, the feeling more along the lines of, hey, how do we welcome them? How do I bring them in? How do I make sure they're not getting pushed away or having a bad experience? That's the only way to really combat gatekeeping, is to push the gatekeeping away, to push down the feelings within ourselves, and to bring those people in and help them. If you're a player experiencing this or anything else that, if it's a fellow player that's trying to push you out or trying to make you feel like you shouldn't be there, talk to your DM. Make sure they're aware of the situation. If they aren't seeing it like at the table, make sure they're aware of it so they can be this can it be so it can be dealt with. I will warn you, if it's the DM, I'm gonna say find another game. Don't waste your time. Don't let that sour your experience. So many times you try to stick it out because I want to do this, but this person's terrible. And my gosh, talk to the players. See if the players know about another DM that might be the other players in the game there. See if they're seeing the same thing. And if there can be some sort of way to work this out, then potentially that can change. But I would say find a new table. Literally, it's not, you don't want that to ruin your experience. And there are other places out to play. There's other people to play with. There's other games to try out. Um, yeah, it's great. We got a lot of DMs there in the chat there. So, in the chat there, you want to share any experiences you've had with this, and maybe how it was dealt with, and some experience you've had with either like quashing it or how you avoided it. Because this is it's an unfortunate reality of any fandom, but in role playing communities, that this can be a thing. I've seen it myself at gaming conventions. When my wife describes this thing, and I actually experienced it too. We sat down to play a board game that at the table, and somebody asked to join in. Well, it's a gaming convention; it's open. We're playing open gaming. There's a person came in there. This person then tried to then tell my wife that, oh, we need to do this, and she finally looked at him and said, "This is my game. I own this." So the idea that this is like he's trying to tell her how it's supposed to be done and how it's supposed to like working there, that is a form of gatekeeping. You don't know what you're talking about. Let me tell you how it's supposed to go. And so the idea that you can shut that down and kind of put that out there of like, no, I know what I'm talking about, or you don't need to justify yourself. Like, yeah, I know what that is. It's fine. So, it's one of those things that people have experienced there. I know women experience a lot more than men in these areas. So, I really want you to kind of watch for that, and how to avoid that kind of behavior, especially if people are at your table. Um, so, some other experiences, some other places this pops up here, um, is when you have a vast knowledge. It's sort of, this is almost like I mean, I was I was actually, before we started here, describing this to Sora there. If I am playing in a game, especially if I were to play in a game where somebody's running in the world of Greyhawk, I mean, Greyhawk, I've got a lot up there. I've got all the novels. I've read all the novels and everything else. I've done a lot of that where as a player stepping into a game where someone's running in a world, I have to avoid that thought process of, this person knows what we're talking about. Again, this game is their world. So as a player stepping into somebody else's game, if they're running in a setting that you're familiar with, or even running in a system that you're very, very familiar with, be aware that it might be different and they may have a different take. And that's fine. It actually is great. It's a new experience. But you have to find yourself kind of pulling back of saying, yep, I know that's not the way that I read it or that I remember it, but this is still really cool. And let's go from there. So the idea of that experience that I've had where playing in games where it's like I may know more about the game or may know more about the world in some cases than the person running, but that doesn't make what they're doing. I I need to pull myself out of that and say I'm not gatekeeping what they're doing. I'm not preventing everyone else from having fun because this person I'm trying to contradict this person or trying to like overshadow this person. It's it's changing that experience of like, yes, I have knowledge, but my knowledge doesn't trump what everyone else knows and or has experienced or wants to do. So where I can, if the question were to come up of like, hey, what does this actually mean? And I may be able to provide something, I can do that to a degree. But a lot of times I even have to pull back and say, nope, you decide, you figure it out. It's all up to them. Um, one situation in this where it can help is if you make your DM aware that you know a lot about this world or a lot about what's there, um, and then do something like well, take a character with like a historian background or a sage background or some like a lore bard or some scientist or librarian type character, and then basically you have justification for some of the knowledge you might have, but you would still want to check to see, okay, do I actually know about this? And then which you know may not be correct in this world that you're playing in. So it's important to kind of keep those feelings of what I know is more important than what this other person knows. Um, it's a really thing to keep in mind as you're playing, um, as you're running. Um, so comment here, Great Dragon. There, I experienced gatekeeping in Hero Clicks. Fun game. I actually have some community until you prove yourself worthy of joining the clique. That is a huge problem when you first try to join it into a game. I experienced that to a degree with certain people playing Warhammer, Warhammer 40k especially. I didn't know all the rules. I didn't know all the factions and the lore. And oh, well, what are you doing here then if you don't know all this stuff? Like, well, I want to roll dice and move miniatures around. It looks like fun. Um, so yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for in the community there. Having a recent D&D game I joined, we're playing planes hopping and visited Eberron. I think it was incorrect, wrong, but I had to sit back and take a deep breath and enjoy what was happening. Exactly, and Magic the Gathering, all these different games settings. When you go in there saying, "Hey, this is not the setting I'm used to. This is not the gods I would expect to be. They're not behaving the way I normally would think of them." So you have to kind of take a step back and say, "Okay, this is different. This is a this is the multiverse thing. This is an alternate universe where things are a little bit different, and I take myself out of that situation of where I'm trying to push my own knowledge of things onto what the world should be, in my opinion, or should be at all, or it shouldn't be because it's their game. Magic the Gathering is a big one there. Is it trying to? I mean, dealing with people that have been playing Magic for a long, long time, and well, you don't know anything because I mean, I played Magic when it first came out, and I stopped because for a lot of reasons. But keeping on top of it all, it's like, why? Um, it's not fun when you're dealing with people that are so like invested, and you shouldn't be here because you don't know anything that I know. Again, you can't play that game with other people, so why would you have that mentality of pushing people away when you have a chance to play the game? It's not fun without people involved. So, so yeah, something to definitely keep in mind. Yeah, so finding it exciting when sometimes forget I need to watch new players enjoy the moment when that happens. uh, step away. Um, yeah, I love seeing people finding things that they know a little bit about. I use the Greyhawk Pantheon in my world, basically 'cause I didn't want to create a whole new pantheon. But the religious aspects of the game that I'm running aren't like the gods are not like an everyday part of everyone's life. I'm also also having anyone who's playing a strict cleric. We have a paladin who has had some experience, some divine experience. But there's not this whole thing of like this is how it has to be. This is the way it's supposed to be. So it's really important that you give them the opportunity to learn and grow and see those things. When there's new players saying, "Wow, this is what's going on," or "Hey, I heard a little bit about this, but what does this really actually mean?" or "How does this work?" Again, it's that learning, that experiencing things together, and finding a chance to grow with the world and grow with your fellow teammates and grow with the NPCs they run into. There's so much out there in the world in a gaming world in a campaign world to experience. Why limit it to one aspect of this book says this, so it has to be this. And if you don't know that, well, you're not a true you shouldn't be at this table. Again, you can't have a game without the people at the table. So make sure they all feel like they're valued. Make sure they all feel like they have something to contribute to whatever degree they want to. Um, yeah, being inflexible in a game where flexibility is needed, if not essential. Um, it's so limiting in everything that we do here. So again, try to avoid that where you can. And if you see people, if one player is trying to gatekeep another player, you've got to squash that. You've got to talk to that person and say, hey, this is not okay. This is what you're doing. Please don't do this anymore before it becomes a problem and that person wants to leave because this person is being a jerk. Talk to them, work that out there, figure that out. Yeah. So, some original Eberron fans that can be where ran with the gods up there, SBM manifesting on Eberron. That's really, really cool idea where you take something that's familiar and shake it up to do things. I literally, the last campaign I started to run in Greyhawk, I did sort of what I ended up doing in my world was I took and had a war among the gods. And in the aftermath of that war, a bunch of the gods were dead and things were changing and other gods were filling in spaces for other gods. It was a lot of work on my part. It was just a fun, almost like a thought experiment, world building thing on my part. But it was too much to bring into a game. So it ended up being this massive amount of lore that just didn't matter to the players. And so it didn't quite work as a campaign in that aspect there. So the idea of Avarice is like, okay, well, yes, there was a big thing that happened, terrible thing. It's now in the case of saying it's 1,000 years later, the world has recovered from this big terrible thing to some degree or other. And there's all this history that's happened since then. But yes, there are still some gods out there, and they have the same names as the gods from another world, from another campaign world. So again, not being so tied into this is the way it is, and nobody else's points of view can change that, or they don't matter. Or if they don't know this, there's something wrong with them. Of course not. I mean, I've read almost all of the Forgotten Realms novels. I've played and read all the Greyhawk novels and the Dragonlance novels, and I I can't. I'm not gonna say, oh, you haven't done that. You can't be a part of this game, or like there's somehow less of a player if you're not if you haven't done all that as well, because no one has that kind of time. Are you a god? No. Then die. Um, and so, yeah, sorry, Ghostbuster reference there. I mean, uh, we we find this same kind of mentality in um, with all fandoms, comics, anime, movies, books, beyond various with various gaming, video games, and every place there. And there's so much out there that really the the thought that somehow this person is less because they don't know what you know. Well, they're going to know more about something else. They're going to know more about something there. And the idea that, well, if they don't know this, they're not a true fan. They're not a true gamer. They're not a true whatever. This whole thing of like, I have to be some elite person because I know all of this stuff. It's not a healthy way to interact with anyone else. It's fun to geek out on things and to talk about stuff and talk about the stories that you read and the experiences you've had at the table, and those are great. Um, but where that turns into, well, you don't know this, so dismiss someone because they don't have their. Yeah, if you like something, you're a fan. You don't have to like it to any specific degree in order to be a fan. You don't have to be an expert on something to just enjoy it. You don't have to. You're not required to take an entrance examination in order to become a D&D player, and you shouldn't be. And this. So, I mean, all that to say, I mean, gatekeeping is bad. Okay, I mean, we we recognize that. A lot of us recognize that, but it can be subtle. It can be something that you didn't quite even realize that you were doing, or that players are doing there. Where if you find yourself saying to someone, "That's not how it works," or "That's not." That's not the actual lore. That's not how that game mechanic works. Rather than coming from that aspect of like saying, okay, here's how, like, that's a cool way to think of it. But here's some other sources. Here's some other information you may not have been aware of. Or in the case of game mechanics, I want to do this thing in here. That's a cool idea. Here's how it works. Make this roll, and we'll make this happen. And so the idea that, hey, there's Zach here. Cool, good to see you, Zach. Um, so the idea that yes, you have a rule set. Yes, you have background for a world, whether it's your own or whether it's one that's already been in production there. But knowing that this can change, this can flow, and if someone comes up to you with an idea of, "Hey, I want to insert this," rather than just saying, "Nope, that's not how it works," or "No, that's not true in this lore," like provide bits of information about how the lore actually is, or that where did you let's figure out where you heard that and why that may be different from this here. It can be a fun way. Um, it can be a fun way to bring in a new point of view to something that doesn't totally break your world or break anything else there. Um, so it again gives them a way to contribute, gives them a way to think of something and try something new. If it's a mechanic that, hey, that's not how this works, but test and tweak this a little bit. And if it's something we really enjoy doing, by all means, have a way, add that to your game, become part of something that's like, hey, we can adjust this to work more like that because that's more fun. Um, so Sora's got a question there. As the player being gatekept, how would you deal with the player who is gatekeeping? Um, I think, I mean, I can't totally say, yeah, if someone who's not the DM tries it, say you're not the DM and leave it at that. That is a good one thing they're saying. This person's in charge. Um, they're what they say is what they say goes. And you can be kind of dismissed like that, saying, well, I'm uh, when it's a tricky one. You may want to, rather than try to have a big confrontation at the table in the moment, if it's possible, at least call your DM's attention to it outside of the game, because you don't want to just stop the game and derail everything because of that. Now, if it's a serious issue like this person just being a flat out jerk, call it out, deal with it. DM again. If you're aware of it, if you're seeing it there, do what you can to deal with it in the um, uh, deal with it as you can in the moment, um, as much as you can to diffuse the situation here. But then, yeah, communicate afterwards, saying, "Hey, this is a situation here. We can't have this. Maybe this is a warning. Hey, let's not do this anymore." Um, but as the player, what's happening to that, make others aware. Check. I mean, like I said, you don't need to blow up in the moment, but at least make sure the DM is aware. Make sure this is something here. And if nothing's being dealt with, if it continues to happen, then like hopefully you feel comfortable to just step away and just say, this isn't for me. I'm going to go on to somewhere else, find a different game. Because if it's not being dealt with, if the DM is not being supportive, is not shutting this down, it's not going to be a good experience moving forward. So you don't want to waste your time in like doing this for a long period of time. This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be enjoyable. And if it's one of the things where it may be a moment of this and saying, you know, let's not do that. um, then hopefully it can be like that person, if they're aware enough, if they've been made aware of it, they will, oh, sorry, yep, my bad, never mind. So if they're a reasonable person, if they're not, again, it may be the DM has to ask that person to step away because they're making it not fun for other people. And I've had that's something that can be done. It's a difficult situation, but it makes sure that the majority of people are having a good time. And if someone's making it not fun, don't have them at your table. Okay. Uh, Dragon's question here. What are some best practices to avoid unintentionally gatekeeping? I think being aware of certain language. Know that's not how that works. Or know that's not what's in the rules or what's in the lore. Anytime you find yourself saying no, that's not automatically gatekeeping. It's potentially gatekeeping. Um, if you when you find yourself saying, well, actually, um, it's not again, it's not automatically that, but you're sort of leaning into that aspect. And so the mentality you can kind of train yourself into using is, well, interesting, yes, and or yes, but that whole thing of like, yes, that's an interesting idea, but here's some other information you may not have been aware of. Or that's an interesting take. Maybe um uh maybe there's um some other resource you can check out there. Um so the idea of when they come to you with like, well, this is what I want, this is what it is, and you can say, let's work with that. So if your initial reaction is no or actually, rein it back in a little bit there and kind of look what's going to make this more fun for this person, for everyone potentially, and you'll be well on your way to avoid that unintentional gatekeeping piece there. It's that immediate no. That's again having a justification for it, saying if you find yourself saying no, that's not in the rules, no, that's not in the lore, you're treading into gatekeeping territory. Um, so and it's making yourself more open to change, making yourself more open to a different way of doing something, and just being aware of that, what the situation is, what the language is, and everything else around it. I hope that answers the question, gives some ideas. And if anybody else has any other comments there, please, yeah, throw them in there. Um, it's it's definitely something that we've all to some degree or other experienced. Stepping into a new hobby, stepping into a new fandom of some kind, there's that intimidation of these people all know more than me. What am I doing? And if you're more welcoming with that, if you're more supportive of that, you're going to help them have a better experience. They're going to want to join the community and learn more and do more. And so avoiding the gatekeeping helps the community grow. It helps the game develop and grow, and you make more friends that way. You slam a gate in someone's face, they're not going to be your friend. They're not going to want to hang out with you and talk about this fun stuff or do this fun activities. So if you're more welcoming in, it's a lot easier to make friends that way and to have a more enjoyable time overall. Um, well, any other questions or comments you want to make in there, go ahead and throw a couple more in. We'll do a couple more here. We are close to the end of our time as we are with our shorter time scale now. Uh, so, um, with that in mind, with this welcoming more empathy, there is that when you have a chance to grow your community, and we as the Tumble Ticket server, we do have a big community here, and we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to be a part of games and be a part of if they want to. When you want to try your hand at running games, make everyone aware that you're learning, that you're trying, and and we hope that all your players are going to be more open to that too, because we're all looking for new DMs, we're all looking for new games. We are all, a lot of us, starved uh for being able to play in more games. It's really important that we have a community that grows with us. We have that expands and grows there. So again, wherever you can, be more welcoming, be more of a community where you can grow and have more fun opportunities. We did have one more question there. We need to kick out a gatekeeper out. Do you think it's better to tell them in real life or through messaging? It's tricky. Whether you do it through messaging or in real life, there, it kind of depends on, obviously, if your game is all online. Um, you may want, if you feel comfortable with it and you have that thing where you can pull them into a chat and talk to them. It might give them a chance to, maybe they weren't aware of it. And if you're at the point where you need to kick them out, hopefully they've been told a few things along the way, and that's where it might just be, hey, it's if you feel comfortable with having that chat there with a person there, or meeting someone, talking to them, it's definitely something where what's going to be your comfort level, and what kind of relationship have you developed with this person. If it's someone say, hey, this has been happening over and over again, I think it's time to step back. And we're going to open up I need you to drop out of the game and and bring in some new players. And hopefully they'll take it well. They may not always take it well. It's hard to say. If you don't have any real personal connection with them, if you haven't had a lot of time there, messaging may work better. It might just be like, hey, this is happening. Like, need you to step out of the game. We're going to open up a space for somebody else to join us. Whatever's be more comfortable for you and for the relationship you have with that person. So it's hard to say what's better. It depends on you and that person's relationship. So keep that in mind. If whatever's going to be easiest, whatever's going to be most comfortable and least confrontational. If you have the opportunity to talk to them about it there and you feel comfortable with that, then by all means, that's the way to do it. If it's, hey, this needs to happen, sorry, it's not working out, no longer be a part of the game, send them a message, that's fine as well. So it's definitely one to consider as you do it. It's not an easy situation. So whatever's going to be best for you and them and the rest of the group. Okay. We have a lot of ghost podcasts in there. Well, the gatekeeper, the key master, exactly. It is fun. Every time I hear of course, yeah, I think of good old Vince Clortho. Um, so, um, with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. I want to thank you for being here, and give me some feedback. What you think about the if you want to just put some comments in there. Let me know what you think of the new time start time. If you want to go back to longer episodes, let me know as well. Definitely. We want to hear your feedback around that. So if you can, drop a comment there in the video. Let us know what you think. And And we'll keep that in mind moving forward. But with that, we're gonna close things for the day here. We're gonna go ahead and close the gate and not deal with it anymore. um, yes, this is where we talk, and we talk as much as we play, and this is really a very very great time. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for chatting, for being so active there. It's been really wonderful. Definitely uh, can't wait to see you all again here. Again, if you have ideas for future episodes, if you want to send me a question, add a comment to the video, send me a question through Discord. If you're a part of the community there, definitely throw my way. I'm always open to new ideas and trying to do things. If you want to rehash some old ideas, we can definitely do that. But thanks again for being here. Thanks for being a part of this. As always, if you are looking for games, check out the Tumble Taker. The link is in the description below. Always looking for more games, more players, more DMs. And I really hope that you can all join us again next time. Appreciate it. Have fun, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.